book? What are you reading?
I don't know. I thought it was Absolute Batman, but it looks like absolute trash.
Ooh, ooh, this is kind of like an interlude, but we'll talk about it right after this. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button, leave us a comment, and hit the notification bell so you're alerted whenever we upload new content, which is pretty much every Monday morning at 10 o'clock. We are now 4 issues in to Absolute Batman. I call this kind of thing, this was kind of like an interlude because we kind of were taking a break from Batman, the Nick Dragotta, Scott Snyder Batman, and we have a guest artist this time, and we go back to the earliest days of Batman here. So, which I think was done solely just to try to keep Nick Dragotta on schedule and get everything in, at least have the first 6 issues come out on time. Would be my
Yeah,
guess.
that's insane if they can't get 6 issues out in time with how far in advance they plan this absolute stuff.
Not going to disagree with you, but what should
I'm not.
happen
Yeah,
and what does happen.
that's probably why they did it. I mean, they typically that happens like after a story arc, right? I mean, a lot of times we'll see a story arc happen, then a fill-in artist do a one shot before we get into the next one, just to give some buffer room. But I mean, they were smart about the formatting, I guess. Since we're doing like a absolute Batman year one shot in the first volume here to get more context to our Batman, it's makes sense if you're going to do it. That's when you do it, I guess. But
Yeah,
man, I just want to put out there, I'm mind blown how you're pretty much your new flagship title for your brand, the number one selling comic of 2024, the biggest comic book on shelves, has such subjective art in it. You don't have some top tier talent that everyone loves that you invest in because you know it's worth it. You have Nick Dragotta. I enjoy his art. It fits the story, but it's definitely hit or miss for a lot of people. Then you go and get a fill-in artist who, nothing against Walta, it's absolute trash. Like there's no way around it. It's trash.
yeah, and
This is
I've
artwork
never
that
heard
you,
of them to be honest with you, and maybe
and
I should have, but
this is literally artwork that you can see in like some Kickstarter shit, man.
yeah, and it's they try to do some things with. Let me go ahead and yeah,
What is that?
I think that was his attempt to do a year one absolute Batman to look kind of like the earliest Batman that Bob Kane drew with the
And
ears
it's
and
not.
everything.
Oh, I agree with that. And it's not a design issue.
Yeah,
It's literally an art issue. I get it. This is the design. He's got fake fangs. He's got this gritty suit and everything. It's not a suit design issue. If you took this same design and had another artist draw it, it would look fine. It's absolutely an art issue. And is the same guy doing the art that's doing like the conversation with him and his dad? Is that the same artist?
yeah, he did everything, all the art.
It literally looks amateur, man.
Gabriel
Like it
Walter.
doesn't look, it's not where you can't understand it or anything like that, but it's absolutely jarring to pick up a book from one of the big two in this medium and this be the product. Like if you're starting at old man Frank Miller level, that's not good.
Yeah,
Just, just want to put that out there. You only
exactly.
digress as you get older.
Right, exactly. If the next time he does, like everybody's just jumping right at the camera, we'll know that's what they tried to do. Yeah, exactly. um,
Wow. And I hate to rant, but I just had to get that out there. Like we have Raphael Sandoval on Superman, but
right,
Wonder Woman and Batman aren't getting the same artistic
right.
love. Like I Wonder Woman, I'm loving despite the art. Like the story overpowers it where it doesn't bother me, but this is jarring.
Yeah, I mean, if there's, I mean, and you know, Nick supposedly Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta have 2 years worth of story, so um, you know, Nick Dragotta probably isn't going anywhere. But it would be nice if maybe now, since they've seen how well the Absolute titles have done, maybe they can pick up some A plus artists to do some of
I'm,
them as well.
kind of like what Ghost Machine's doing. Gary Frank can't like run like an interior for that long, that consistent. So they're alternating story arcs.
Right.
And Gary
and
Frank's villain was had
Paul Pelletier come in and do 3 issues, and
fantastic.
yeah. And then what they did was the Paul Pelletier 3-issue arc ended, and like 2 weeks after that, they have another Gary Frank one come out.
Yeah,
because he was able to get all caught up and everything. So
they're scheduling proper in house, and they're not substituting for. I don't want to. I mean, it sounds terrible for talentless people. Like the dude has talent. He drew a comic book, but this is not the grade talent that we should be paying $5 a book for. You know what I mean? We're paying $5 a book. They should be hiring the best.
Right. Exactly. And, to your point, for $5 a book, and we have 3 A-list writers on the 3 titles so far, we should be trying to match them up with at least, the same level type of artists.
Now, I wonder if they pick their artist kind of thing. Maybe. I wonder if they were asked, because the Nick Dragotta thing, I don't care what anybody says. That dude was not a household name until Absolute Batman #1. There are people that have heard of him. He has done things. He literally became a superstar overnight. We all watched it happen. Mm-hmm. And the person who's doing the art on Wonder Woman, isn't it something Porter?
Hayden Sherman.
Hayden Sherman, not a household name either, and didn't go into superstardom overnight. Raphael Sandoval was already there when he started. Mm-hmm. And that's just, I don't know, man. I don't know how they came about it, so I don't want to be too hypercritical. I'm just shocked that they're sandbagging the art on this book, because a lot of people are pointing it out, and that's only going to damage the brand. I want to see this succeed. I want to see what 2 years from now looks like with the Absolute world. And if you run people off with the art, we might not make it.
Yeah, that's a great point. You gotta make them want to come back. And if your only reason of coming back is Scott Snyder, well, he writes lots of other things too.
So and we have friends. We have friends like our good friend Dursey. Mm-hmm. Dursey Boy, Collecting with Durs. He's art first. Mm-hmm. Like, he's very sensitive to that. He loves a good story, but art will run him off before the story will. And he's not the only one. There's countless people like that. You got to kind of get that balance.
Yeah. Well, let's do our best to try to get through what we have.
Story was fine. Let's get into that.
Yeah. Again, this is going back to the earliest time, to both the beginning of Batman as a crime fighter in Gotham, but also goes back to shortly after, and actually before, and then shortly after his father is killed. We start actually in the court case. Actually, the sentencing case, part of the court case for Joe Chill, and we have Bruce Wayne, who has asked to say something to the court before Joe Chill does. Yeah,
which they say it is out of line, but what do you have to say? And then it immediately cuts to a flashback of some gang members on top of a roof with a couple of family members kind of trying to strong arm, intimidate, threaten them, and the family members stating that we're not afraid of you. And the gang member immediately kicking the old woman off the roof, seemingly to her death, only for them to look down and find out that she had a softer landing than they expected.
Right. And what happened was Batman actually saved her, brought her back up, put her on top of the roof. That's where we see our first look at the earliest Absolute Batman. He basically, again, he has the curved ears like from the Bob Kane days. He has the fangs like you mentioned. So he was going, full on Bat at that time. Yeah, and he just beats these guys up, blocks a couple gunshots, pulls a gun on a criminal as well. And right when he does, that's when we get our inception level to the story. We flash back again, but to a time before the trial when Thomas Wayne was still alive. Correct. And we see Bruce Wayne basically doing a science project. Their assignment was to build a bridge. And they could do it any way they wanted to. And Bruce, in his studying it, thought that the best way to build the bridge would be to build it somehow in the form of a bat. Yeah, because why? Right. Because just because. And also a little added layer, they're building a bridge for humanitarian purposes. They have a goal. It's not just any bridge. It's a bridge for people to get supplies across. So it has to be a fast action, like a pop-up bridge kind of thing, which kind of lends to the folding of bat wings and stuff and the structure and architecture of that. But we come back to that after flashing back to the criminals and Batman standing there with said firearm pointed at the criminal, where he's kind of like
looks like he's weighing his options as more criminals come approaching him, breaking up his whatever he was going to do, and him taking off into the night. And then we see that he didn't like that feeling of holding that cold steel at that guy, and threw the gun out, threw the teeth out, kind of loses the theatrics. Where our previous Batman that we know, even as far as the Nolan movies, big on theatrics. He played into how he operated and interacted with criminals with the theatrics. This Batman is stating he doesn't want to go that way, and he immediately starts hitting the weights and welding together a new suit.
Right. And again, a nod to the first, Bob Kane in Detective Comics. Batman did have a gun when he first started, lost it very quickly. So again, a kind of a nod to that. So, still pulling pieces from the from what we had from the original Batman. But yeah, then we see Bruce Wayne basically scouting out some things. And looking to see when's the best time for him to basically make his move on all of these criminals that are working in Gotham City.
Yeah, they're running trucking routes of illegal operations. He's found the time and place of a truck that he wants to take down. And we see this truck haul and tail through a tunnel, and then we see coming up behind it a would-be Batmobile vrooming. And then we see it as it approaches the truck. It's not a Batmobile. It's an RC car, an RC miniature Batman contraption. As the criminals are driving through the tunnel, Batman comes into view standing in the middle of the road, and they scream to run him down. And about that time, he hits the little button on the RC car, and we see what its purpose is. It's a hydraulic extender under the truck that throws the truck up in the air, crashing it, spilling out all the firearms that were in there, where Batman quickly takes down the criminals driving.
Yeah, again, very good use of his Batmobile. It's not just a vehicle; it's very functional to help him combat crime as he needs to.
Yeah, in this case, it was just an RC car.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It was tiny, itty bitty.
Right. We flash back again to Bruce building the bridge with his father there, and he tells him this story about how he originally, about how his father died. He tells him the story about how he was with his father. Suddenly, they were out doing something. Then suddenly his father grabbed his chest. He knew that before he even hit the ground that his father was dead, and that's why he wanted to be a heart surgeon. Which, if you know the main DC universe, Thomas Wayne, he was a heart surgeon. But he doesn't become a heart surgeon because what he does is he realizes that certain things happen in his life, like Bruce gets born, and that's when Bruce says, "Oh, so this is a guilt trip," and he's like, "No, it's not a guilt trip. I'm just explaining to you that things happen in people's lives that alter the course of what they may be doing. I came to realize that rather than being a heart surgeon, I could actually help children kind of grow into and be what it is that they need, and then they could be the people that actually change the world." And then he says something which is kind of interesting. He says, "Perhaps in another life or in another world, I am a heart surgeon," which is kind of like, is that for the first kind of tweak at, okay, you know what, maybe at some point we'll see these worlds interact. I think at some point we will. But yeah, Bruce is still building. He's taking a look at his bridge. He's refining it, making it more like a bat, actually.
Change the structure up on it a little bit.
Right.
Bridge 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. Flash forward a little bit, back to the court case for Joe Chill. He basically is telling Joe Chill, "Look, the reason why I was here is because my father was so proud of me on that day in the zoo. It was basically the happiest that I've ever been, and then you took away that happiness."
Yeah, we find out that they made this zoo trip because he won it was a prize for him in his class for winning, right? Wasn't that what they were talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Bruce won his way to the event of his father's passing. That was wild. But then we flash again from there to this is literally Snyder trying to do his best TK right now.
Right.
But then we flash back to Batman era Bruce. Round one, he didn't like how he was doing things. He do a little upgrading and changing, but now he decided that he has to get out into Gotham. He has to study Gotham. He has to learn about this city and all the things about it. So this is like his League of Shadows training. This is him going out and learning about the people. And it was just kind of like a page bouncing bouncing around at all the ideas of Gotham, and looking around at things falling apart, the hurt, the feeling, the people, the brave faces, and this and that. It's him getting in touch with his city.
Right. And we see Bruce, we flash forward a little bit now to his father is dead. We see him kind of, testing out some of the parts of his suit. We flash back to Bruce's father saying, okay, you know what, let's see it. And that's when he sees basically he has built this bridge that looks exactly like a bat, and it's designed to just kind of fall from the sky.
So you can airdrop it to
exactly.
location.
Yeah, exactly. And so he says it's the best kind. You can use it for whatever you want. You can use it for offense or for defense or whatever it is you need to do with it. You'll be able to do it.
We also get another shot of him hitting the weights, which I thought was pretty cool because early in the book, when he first decides that theatrics isn't going to do it, sheer muscle's going to do it, that's what he looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then toward the back of the book, when we see him again, dude done beefed up. Beefy Batman.
He's a roided out Batman.
Yeah, but yeah, we see him making his gadgets like you mentioned, the first little hook extensions and everything like that, and the axe and all that good stuff. Then he goes out on the town. He's taking a look at the high life and some of the criminals and would-be's, this and that, and then you hear a helicopter coming and shines down on him, and you see him jump off the roof, and you get like your first shot of him in like the absolute. He looks like he's wearing a wet paper bag. This artist is terrible.
Yeah, it's supposed to be obviously the rib type of a suit, obviously, but it looks like he made his thing of corduroy almost. Or
yeah, this is supposed to be that suit, is
right.
what I took that as. Like
right,
it's supposed
exactly.
to be, but because of the artist interpretation of it, and that's also him flying through the air, by the way.
Right. Which you would think his cape would be like kind of.
Personally, I think a lot of things. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to be mean, but I'm thinking a lot of things when I see it. And then it ends with cutting to him visiting Joe Chill in Iron Heights. We saw that he was doing that. Is it in Iron Heights? No, I don't know. Blackgate somewhere. Bell Reef. But we saw that Alfred had followed him before. We know that he went and visits him. And in this case, he sits down in front of him, clenches his fist, looks at Joe Chill and says, well, you had something to say, ? And it ends on that. So we don't know what he's talking to Joe Chill about. We did see on social media where Snyder and Dragotta put a conversation out there where they spoke about if this universe, this Bruce, is going to have come to terms with the whole death of his parent, and if he's going to be a Bruce that's like past it and forgiven Joe Chill. And they stated, nah.
ain't gonna happen.
Nah.
Yeah, and that's where we end. Again, to your point, will there be another issue somewhere down the road where we, pick up the point where he's just starting to talk to Joe Chill, kind of like one of the things I liked about the old Starman series that they used to do, and it was done for the same reason. It was done kind of to give Tony Harris at the time was drawing a month off was they did that Times Past type of thing where he would go and he would talk to his brother, the ghost of his brother, all the time, and they did that once a year.
That's cool.
Yeah. And that was, and they did that for it ended up being, some of the best issues of the series, but they did that specifically to give Tony Harris a break and help him to try to catch up. But who knows, if we'll see that but to your point from the beginning is really hoping at some point on these, at least Wonder Woman and because I don't know how Hayden Sherman's going to continue because he's also drawing Dark Patterns, Batman Dark Patterns as well. So he's drawing 2 comics every month.
A lot of people do, don't they?
Yeah, but not for very long. Not everyone is a Dan Moore.
How many was Perez doing at one time at one point?
Perez was actually doing New Teen Titans, Avengers, and Justice League all at the same time.
All at the same dang time.
Yeah.
And if you go back and look at the quality of work in each of those, you couldn't tell he was doing 3 titles or if he was doing 1 book a year. It looked the same.
Right.
That's absolutely the difference. Like there's countless artists I see all the time on Instagram, just as one example. Like, I'm sure these people would love a job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just want this stuff to succeed so bad because this is the stuff that I like the most. And I want to see more people pick it up. I want to see it do good, and I want to see it just get better. And it's weird when you see it regressing in such a time of success. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and we have, we're just a little bit over a month away from getting the next round of Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter
Flash.
and Flash. But we also don't want to end today without reminding everyone, if you have not already, you need to go out and find Aquaman issue number 1.
Yeah, I'm giving away some Aquaman stuff coming up.
There you go.
So head over. You can also find us on my channel every Sunday night. We'll be talking about the big monthly giveaway over there as well.
Yes, Aquaman, and like great Aquaman stuff, like first appearances of major villains,
Blue suits,
the blue suit.
Original
I hope they
sketch
bring back
covers.
the blue suit at some point. I love the blue suit. I know
Even just for an issue.
it was probably a bitch to draw, but it was great.
Yeah, I even swapped out the Vigilante for the blue suit Aquaman figure up here.
Yeah,
It's Aquaman month back here.
there you go. There you go. But that's going to be it for this edition of DC Comics Deep Dive. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button before you leave. Leave us a comment and hit the notification bell so you're alerted whenever we upload new content. But that's it for now. I am Paul. He is Mark.
But we are Legion.
And you're now leaving Sector 2815.